Let me get this straight. Pretty much all of the Roman Empire spoke Latin, especially in the West. So where did it go? Nowhere. It's still here. And its new name is Italian. But it's the same thing, and renaming it was stupid. Let me explain. We are taught that the language we know as Italian developed from Latin. Okay, that is true, but to an extent. Sure. If you speak modern Italian, you would not understand the Latin that was spoken by Cicero and Caesar 2,000 years ago, because the language has evolved for 2,000 years. But the same is true for Greek, but it's still called Greek. Even though a person speaking modern Greek would never understand what Alexander the Great was speaking, because the language has evolved for 2,000 years, but it's still called Greek. The same is true for many languages like English, Russian, Finnish, to name a few. Every living language evolves in time, and at a point becomes so different that a modern speaker could not understand the texts written in it that are hundreds or even thousands of years old. But more often than not, they are still seen as the same language, because they are. So why is it different with Italian then? Well, we have to blame the early and high Middle Age church for that. In Catholicism at the time, there was an understanding that the all-knowing, all-powerful God was only able to speak Latin, and could definitely not even grasp any other language. And the church began to notice somewhere around the year 1000 that the Latin they spoke was different from the Latin that people used to speak. And they were afraid that God would not understand their prayers. Even little babies were at stake. Because if the priest used the wrong words when the baby was being baptized, the baby would certainly go to hell. No questions asked. So it was serious. And the solution they came to was that the priests and other church officials would have to learn to speak the Latin that was over half a millennium old in their time. So basically they would have to speak Old Latin, which was spoken during the times of the Roman Empire, to communicate to their all-powerful God. It was not easy, but they got it done. With that done, the Latin of their time, the modern Latin of the year 1000, was no longer seen as Latin, but as a lesser language of the, common folk. But what about French, Portuguese, Spanish, and Romanian? They also developed from Latin. Why should they not be considered to be Latin under the same logic as Italian? Well, that's quite simple, really. Italian is spoken in Italy, where Latin originated from, so it should be the only language named Latin, the same way as Dutch and Afrikaans work. At a point where the language splits into two, like Dutch when it became Dutch and Afrikaans, the language that is spoken in the language's homeland keeps the original name. So the Dutch spoken in the Netherlands was still Dutch, but the Dutch spoken in South Africa got a new name, Afrikaans. Otherwise it would just be plain old stupid. In conclusion, Italian is actually Latin, Latin is actually Old Latin, if you follow the logic of pretty much every other language out there, but some church guys changed it for some stupid reason 1,000 years ago. But who cares? Well, I did make a video about this, so I guess I care, but I'll admit it, there are more serious problems out there right now. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, then very gently press the like and subscribe button.